The enemy never expected the human princess to strike first. She kept her back straight, her head high, though her stomach fluttered with the familiar mixture of excitement and nervousness. This summit could change everything for humanity, but only if she played her part well. She was young, even for a princess, yet her mind had been trained since childhood for moments like this, moments where intelligence, patience, and courage mattered far more than raw strength. The hall was vast, filled with representatives of countless worlds. Tall, glimmering beings with translucent skin spoke quietly among themselves. Short, stout creatures with many eyes scuttled across the floor, carrying small data cubes and scrolls. Every species seemed intent on showing their power or superiority, but humans were considered minor players in these interstellar games. Many looked at her now with polite curiosity or mild amusement, as if expecting the human princess to fumble under pressure. They did not know that humans thrived in the unpredictable. Alara walked toward the central table, where the Zephyrian delegates were already seated. Their leader, a being named Krivon, towered over most of the other species. His 4 arms rested on the table and his many eyes studied her sharply. A ripple of whispers spread through the room. Humans were not supposed to lead in these matters. They were supposed to follow, to yield. Yet Alara did not flinch. She had observed Krivon for months through videos and reports. She had memorized his gestures, his tones, the small habits that betrayed his thinking. Diplomacy was as much about observation as it was about speech, and humans had a unique talent for noticing details others overlooked. "Princess Alara," Krivon said, his voice a low rumble that seemed to resonate through the room. "We are curious to see what humanity brings to this summit. Your species has long been overlooked in matters of galactic importance." Alara smiled politely. "We are here to ensure that all worlds benefit from cooperation, not conflict," she replied. Her voice was calm but carried a firmness that made several delegates lean forward. Humans, though physically weaker than many species, had a way of commanding attention without raising their voice. Krivon's multiple eyes blinked slowly. "Very well. Tell us, Princess, how does your kind intend to balance the interests of the Federation with the demands of the Zephyrian Confederation?" It was the question she had expected. Many humans might have faltered, offering vague reassurances or overly cautious statements. But Alara had a plan. She opened a small data tablet and projected a holographic map of trade routes, energy hubs, and resource-rich planets. The images glowed softly above the table, shifting as she manipulated them with subtle gestures. "Our proposal is simple," she said. "We have identified areas where cooperation can increase efficiency for all parties. Our technology allows shared monitoring of trade routes, ensuring that no world loses access while maximizing energy distribution. We believe these solutions will strengthen the Federation and benefit the Confederation as well." A murmur passed through the delegates. It was not the usual cautious suggestion they expected. Humans did not only present a problem, they presented solutions. Krivon leaned forward, his multiple hands tapping rhythmically on the table. "This is unusual," he admitted. "No human has ever proposed such a plan before. Most of your species would have accepted what we offered or stepped aside." Alara's smile widened, though her mind raced. She had anticipated this reaction. Humans had a reputation for reacting rather than acting, but she knew that their greatest advantage was foresight. By striking first with a well-prepared plan, she could turn assumptions on their head. "We believe that action must be guided by thought," she said. "If we wait for others to lead, we lose opportunities that could benefit everyone. Sometimes the first step is not confrontation but collaboration." The Zephyrians were silent for a moment. Even the smallest delegates had stopped moving. It was as if a sudden weight had shifted in the room. Humans were not only willing to negotiate, they were daring to lead. Across the hall, smaller species whispered among themselves. Many had quietly supported the Zephyrians in the past, but now they glanced at Alara with interest. The human princess had done something no one expected. She had created curiosity where there was once dismissal. Krivon's voice broke the silence. You speak of collaboration, yet your plan favors your own worlds in subtle ways. Why should we trust you? Alara held his gaze steadily. Because our advantage is not in dominating others, but in finding solutions that help everyone prosper. Trust is built through action, not threats. Some delegates leaned closer, intrigued. Humans had never spoken like this. Their words were not boastful, nor were they submissive. They were clear, precise, and backed by logic and evidence. It was a new approach in a room full of beings accustomed to negotiation through intimidation or display of power. Krivon nodded slowly. Interesting. You are bold. That is true, Alara said simply. But we are also careful. Boldness without preparation is foolish. Boldness with preparation is effective. For the next few hours, she guided discussions on trade agreements, resource sharing, and technological exchange. She asked questions that revealed weaknesses and assumptions, highlighted opportunities others had missed, and suggested compromises that seemed to benefit every party. Each time, she did so with a calm and measured voice, never raising it in anger or impatience. During a short break, Alara walked through the hall, observing other delegates. Many stared openly now, some with admiration, some with quiet envy. Humans had a way of surprising others, and she was proving that the species' reputation for being reactive was a misunderstanding. Humans were reactive in danger, yes, but in intellect and strategy, they could strike first with precision and creativity. She paused near a window overlooking the city below the summit hall. The Zephyrian capital was a breathtaking display of architecture that twisted like living crystals, glowing softly under the twin suns. Yet the beauty of the city did not intimidate her. Humans had faced challenges far less forgiving than alien politics. Survival on a young planet with limited resources had forged resilience and cleverness into their nature. That resilience would serve her now. Returning to the summit room, Alara found Krivon speaking quietly with some advisors. She approached, maintaining her composed expression. "Are we ready to continue?" she asked. Krivon's multiple eyes flicked toward her. "Yes. But I must warn you, Princess, many of our species find your methods unsettling. They are not used to humans acting so decisively." Alara tilted her head slightly. "Perhaps it is time to change expectations." As the afternoon wore on, discussions shifted to specific planetary trade routes. Alara presented simulations showing how small adjustments in timing and coordination could prevent conflicts and maximize resource distribution. The Zephyrians listened, skeptical at first, but gradually nodding as the logic became clear. Other species began to offer their own suggestions, building on her ideas. By evening, what had begun as a tense and potentially hostile summit was now a collaborative effort. Delegates who had doubted humans now saw them as capable of leading through intelligence, innovation, and foresight. As the session ended, Krivon spoke again. "Princess Alara, you have done more in a single day than many human leaders have done in decades. Your species is unpredictable, perhaps too clever to ignore." Alara bowed slightly. "Thank you. We only wish to contribute in ways that benefit all. Humanity has learned that cooperation is stronger than domination. Sometimes the first move must be made by those who are willing to think differently." Walking back to her quarters, she allowed herself a small smile. Today had been a success, but the real challenge was only beginning. The Zephyrians were clever and proud, and there would be further tests. Yet humans had proven one vital fact. They could strike first in ways no one expected, not with weapons, but with intelligence, strategy, and foresight. Alara gazed out at the twin suns setting over the Zephyrian city, feeling the weight of responsibility and possibility. She was a human princess, small and underestimated in the eyes of the galaxy. Yet in that very underestimation lay humanity's greatest advantage, the power to surprise, to act first, and to change the course of events through thought and courage rather than force. And tomorrow, she thought, humans would take another step forward. The next morning, Princess Alara awoke to the soft hum of the Zephyrian city. The twin suns had just begun to rise, casting a warm glow over the crystalline towers outside her window. She stretched and took a deep breath. Today would be a critical day. The summit had begun smoothly yesterday, but true progress required not only intelligence but boldness, timing, and subtle strategy. Humans had always relied on thinking ahead, and she intended to use that advantage fully. After a light breakfast, she entered the main hall once again. Delegates from all corners of the galaxy had gathered, their discussions already starting in low tones. The Zephyrians looked at her differently now. Yesterday's calm, measured approach had left an impression, and whispers about human cleverness passed from group to group. Many species were beginning to wonder what humans were truly capable of. Alara moved gracefully to her place at the center table. She carried no weapons, no devices for intimidation, only her data tablet and her mind, her most powerful tools. She had prepared simulations and projections for every conceivable scenario the Zephyrians might propose. Today, she planned to do something that few humans had attempted before, to strike first by introducing a solution that no one else had imagined before the Zephyrians could make a move. The room quieted as Krivon rose from his seat. "Princess Alara," he said, his voice a deep rumble that carried across the hall, "your species surprises us. Today we will see whether humans can sustain their cleverness when pressured." Alara nodded politely. "We are ready." Krivon gestured to a large holographic table at the center. Streams of information appeared, trade routes, energy supplies, planetary resource data. Many delegates murmured among themselves, noting errors, inconsistencies, and gaps. Alara had anticipated this. The Zephyrians were experts at analyzing information, and they would immediately search for flaws. But she had ensured there were none. Every detail had been double-checked, every assumption verified. She began her presentation. "Yesterday, we discussed cooperation and strategy. Today, I propose a system that goes beyond negotiation. It allows all parties to share information securely, monitor resource distribution in real time, and predict potential conflicts before they arise. This system is adaptable, efficient, and most importantly, benefits all worlds without giving undue advantage to any single species." Some delegates frowned, skeptical. This was not what they expected. Humans were assumed to be reactive, slow, and inexperienced in the subtle games of interstellar diplomacy. Yet here was a human princess presenting an advanced solution before anyone had suggested a problem. One of the smaller delegates, a being with 6 shimmering limbs, spoke up. "This is unusual. How can you be certain it will work?" Alara smiled. "It has been tested in simulations for months. Humans are very good at observing patterns and predicting outcomes. We have noticed trends that others have missed, and we can adjust the system in real time to respond to unexpected developments. The system is not rigid, it learns." A few delegates leaned forward. This idea of proactive problem-solving was new to them. Most species acted after a challenge appeared, using power or intimidation to claim advantage. Humans, however, seemed to act first, solving challenges before they even fully materialized. Krivon's eyes narrowed, a gesture Alara had come to recognize as thoughtfulness rather than anger. "You present a solution before a problem has been agreed upon. Bold. Yet, how can we be sure it does not favor your species?" Alara held his gaze steadily. "The system is impartial. Its design is based on logic and fairness. Any perceived advantage is a result of human preparation, not manipulation. Humans understand that cooperation is stronger than domination. We strike first, not to conquer, but to prevent conflict. There was silence in the hall. Alara could feel the tension, a subtle energy that pulsed through the gathering. She had expected it. Bold moves always created ripples of surprise, and those ripples could either crash against resistance or flow into acceptance. The key was confidence and clarity. "I will demonstrate," she continued. With a few taps on her tablet, the holographic display shifted, showing an intricate network connecting planets, trade routes, and energy hubs. Animated lines moved like streams of light, highlighting where resources were underused or at risk of disruption. The system suggested adjustments, small changes in timing and coordination that could prevent shortages and maximize output for all. Delegates gasped softly. This was something no one had done before. Many species had complex systems, but none had integrated so many variables with such precision. Humans, long underestimated, were showing an ability to think ahead on a scale that rivaled the most advanced alien civilizations. A Zephyrian advisor leaned toward Krivon. "This is impressive," he said in a low voice. "They anticipate issues before we even see them. How can this be?" Krivon's multiple eyes studied Alara. "It is the human way," he said aloud. "They act when others hesitate, think when others wait. Perhaps we have underestimated them." Alara spoke again, her voice calm but carrying a quiet authority. "It is not arrogance to act first with preparation. It is responsibility. Every species has strengths. Human strength is foresight, creativity, and adaptability. We believe in using these strengths to benefit everyone." The smaller delegates began to nod. Murmurs of agreement passed from group to group. Humans were no longer seen as minor players. They were now recognized as intelligent contributors, capable of shaping outcomes rather than following them. Krivon hesitated. This was unusual. No human had ever demonstrated such foresight, such clarity, and such influence over the opinions of other species. Typically, humans reacted slowly, often caught off guard by complex interstellar politics. But Princess Alara had done something remarkable. She had acted first, with careful planning, and forced the galaxy to reconsider their assumptions. Alara had one more step. She allowed the delegates time to study the system, answer questions, and debate among themselves. This was deliberate. By letting them explore and analyze, she encouraged independent verification, a method humans often use to earn trust. Her plan relied not on coercion, but on understanding and persuasion. Several hours passed. Delegates spoke, debated, and examined the simulations. Every question they asked, Alara had anticipated and prepared an answer. Every doubt was met with clear reasoning and evidence. By mid-afternoon, even Krivon was forced to acknowledge the system's effectiveness. "You have created something remarkable," he said finally. "A network that benefits all parties and requires no enforcement, no oversight beyond mutual agreement. Humans, you act in ways we did not expect." Alara inclined her head. "It is not enough to act, my lord. One must act wisely, consider consequences, and be willing to lead when necessary. Sometimes the first move is the most important, not because it dominates, but because it creates opportunity." A small, timid-looking delegate spoke up. "But if this system works so well, why have humans never done this before?" Alara smiled. "Because humans are always learning. We adapt to circumstances, and we act when the time is right. Boldness is not about rushing forward. It is about recognizing the right moment and having the courage to act first." The delegates fell silent. This was a lesson many species had never considered. Leadership and cleverness were not measured by strength or size, but by insight, foresight, and the willingness to take initiative in thoughtful ways. By evening, the summit had transformed. What began as a tense and potentially hostile meeting had become a collaborative effort. Species that had been poised for argument were now exploring solutions together. The human princess had shifted the balance, not with force, but with intelligence, foresight, and subtle strategic action. Krivan watched as delegates interacted with the system, adjusting simulations and offering suggestions. He nodded slowly to himself. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but they were also clever, responsible, and capable of inspiring cooperation. Perhaps the galaxy had underestimated them for too long. Alara returned to her quarters that evening, exhausted but satisfied. She had acted first, not in anger or confrontation, but in intellect and strategy. She had demonstrated that humans could influence outcomes, shape decisions, and create opportunities where none had seemed possible. And she had done it without threatening, coercing, or harming anyone, a triumph of thought over force. She stood by the window, watching the twin suns dip below the horizon. The city below glimmered like a field of stars. Tomorrow, she knew, would bring further challenges. The Zephyrians were clever, persistent, and proud. They would test humans further. Yet today, humanity had taken a vital step forward. They had struck first in the way that mattered most, with vision, planning, and courage. Alara smiled faintly. The galaxy was beginning to notice humans, not as weak, reactive participants, but as intelligent, capable leaders. And as she turned to prepare for tomorrow, she knew one thing clearly. Sometimes, the most powerful strike is the one made with the mind, before anyone else even realizes it is possible. Humans had acted first, and the galaxy would never see them the same way again. The morning sun rose over the Zephyrian capital, painting the crystalline towers in shades of gold and rose. Princess Alara stood at her window, observing the city below. Yesterday had been a triumph. Humans had acted first, using intellect and foresight to gain respect from the galaxy's most formidable species. Yet she knew that today would be more difficult. The Zephyrians were proud and clever. They would not simply accept her proposals, they would challenge them, and humans had to be ready. Alara entered the summit hall with a sense of purpose. Delegates were already gathered, their conversations quiet but intense. Many eyes turned to her. There was a mixture of curiosity and cautious admiration. Humans were no longer seen as insignificant. They were participants, leaders even, and that recognition carried both opportunity and risk. Krivan rose from his seat, multiple eyes focused on her. Princess Alara, your proposals have caused a stir. Some delegates speak of collaboration while others whisper doubt. Let us see if humans can maintain their insight when faced with scrutiny. Alara nodded. We are prepared. Her calm confidence seemed to settle the room. Humans were known for acting unpredictably, but she had learned that consistency and clarity often had a stronger impact than impulsive brilliance. The session began with a review of the system she had presented. Delegates spoke, asked questions, and explored its capabilities. Many were impressed, yet some voiced concerns. A few species worried that the system might favor the humans or that hidden weaknesses could emerge under pressure. These challenges were expected. Every clever plan invited critique. Alara listened carefully. She knew that the real test of her strategy was not in initial acceptance, but in handling doubt gracefully. She welcomed each question, using them as opportunities to demonstrate foresight. The system is designed to learn from real-time data, she explained. If adjustments are needed, they can be made collaboratively. No species gains advantage unfairly. The strength lies in shared understanding and cooperation. A Zephyrian advisor leaned forward. But how do we know your simulations account for unforeseen variables? What if conditions change unexpectedly? Alara smiled slightly. Uncertainty is inevitable in any system, but humans have long relied on adaptability. Our strength is in anticipating change and responding quickly. We do not act recklessly, we act thoughtfully, prepared for multiple outcomes. This is how humans survive and thrive. The room fell silent. Even Krivon seemed impressed. He had expected hesitation, perhaps mistakes from the humans. Instead, they displayed careful preparation, clarity, and calm confidence. Many delegates began to murmur among themselves, sharing their astonishment. Humans were proving that their reputation as reactive and simple was a misconception. Alara knew it was time for the next phase. Yesterday had been about introducing her ideas. Today, she would show the true advantage of acting first, shaping the response of others before they realized it. With a few taps on her data tablet, she projected a set of predictive models. These models illustrated potential conflicts and inefficiencies in resource distribution if the system was not adopted. Yet rather than presenting it as a threat, she framed it as an opportunity. If we do not adjust certain routes and schedules, she explained, some planets may experience shortages, but with minor coordination, every world benefits. The choice is not one of loss or gain, but of opportunity. Those who act first can ensure success for all. Delegates leaned closer, studying the projections. The models were complex yet easy to understand, and every scenario had been carefully verified. It became clear that the humans had thought through every possible contingency. Other species began to recognize that Alara's system was not only innovative but also robust. Krivon's many eyes regarded her thoughtfully. You have anticipated responses we have not even voiced. Your species acts before problems fully exist. Bold and perhaps too clever for our comfort. Alara inclined her head. Humans have learned that foresight and preparation are more valuable than reaction. By acting first, we prevent difficulties and create opportunities. Leadership is not about waiting for others to fail. It is about thinking ahead and offering solutions. The smaller delegates, once hesitant, now began to participate actively. They asked detailed questions, suggested improvements, and engaged in discussions. The summit was transforming from a formal negotiation into a collaborative workshop. Humans had shifted the dynamic entirely. Yet Alara remained vigilant. She knew that the Zephyrians would not yield so easily. They were proud and skilled in strategy, and they would test humans further. She observed subtle changes in their expressions, slight shifts in posture, and small gestures that indicated plotting. Anticipating these moves was essential. Humans had to be ready to respond without overreacting, using strategy rather than force. During a short break, Alara walked through the hall, observing delegates. She noticed that even those skeptical of humans yesterday now approached her, seeking guidance or clarification. The princess answered each inquiry with patience and intelligence. She knew that human influence was growing not through coercion but through respect. Every thoughtful response, every carefully considered explanation, reinforced the perception that humans could lead with wisdom. Returning to the central table, Alara prepared for the next phase of the summit, negotiation on resource allocation. The Zephyrians were expected to push for dominance, using their influence to claim the most profitable planets. Humans had anticipated this. Alara had prepared a framework that allowed equitable distribution while highlighting efficiencies and mutual benefits. As discussions began, the Zephyrians made their demands. They expected hesitation, a careful human compromise, or even capitulation. But Alara did not flinch. With calm precision, she presented her solution: a coordinated system of schedules, trade agreements, and shared technology that satisfied the Zephyrian interests without disadvantaging other species. Delegates murmured in astonishment. The proposal was elegant, practical, and fair. It demonstrated humans' ability to balance multiple priorities with clarity and fairness, a quality many species found rare. By acting first and offering a ready solution, humans had taken control of the negotiation in a subtle but undeniable way. Krivon's eyes flickered as he considered the presentation. "You have turned our demands into cooperation," he admitted. "Humans are unpredictable and effective. Alara inclined her head. Effectiveness comes from foresight, careful planning, and the courage to act first. Humans do not always dominate with power, but we can lead through intelligence and collaboration. The session continued late into the evening. Delegates debated, adjusted proposals, and refined agreements. Alara guided the discussions, offering insights and adjustments where needed. Her calm confidence allowed others to feel secure, even when their initial assumptions were challenged. By the end of the day, agreements had been reached that were more comprehensive and equitable than anyone had expected. Krivon approached her as the hall emptied. Princess Alara, your actions today have reshaped the summit. Your species acts not through force but through vision. You strike first, yet no one is harmed. This is rare in the galaxy. Alara smiled faintly. It is the human way, my lord. We act thoughtfully, anticipate outcomes, and seek solutions that benefit all. Strength is not always in power. Sometimes it is in foresight, patience, and courage. The Zephyrians were silent for a moment, absorbing her words. Even they, proud and confident in their own methods, could not deny the effectiveness of the human approach. By anticipating challenges, preparing solutions, and acting decisively, humans had gained respect and influence beyond their perceived status. As she returned to her quarters, Alara allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection. Today had been another victory, not of confrontation, but of strategy. Humans had demonstrated that being first was not about aggression, but about insight, planning, and the ability to inspire cooperation. Looking out at the city under the twin moons, she felt a quiet satisfaction. The galaxy was beginning to see humans differently. They were no longer minor players, no longer underestimated. They were clever, capable, and willing to act when others hesitated. Alara knew that challenges lay ahead. The Zephyrians were proud and would continue to test humans, but she also knew that humanity had taken a decisive step forward. By striking first with intelligence and preparation, they had created a foundation for influence, cooperation, and respect across the stars. And as she prepared for the next day, she understood that this was only the beginning. Humans would continue to surprise, to lead, and to act first in ways that others could not predict. In the quiet of her chamber, she allowed herself a small, confident smile. The galaxy had begun to notice humans, not as weak or reactive, but as capable, strategic, and visionary. Humans had acted first again, and the universe was taking note. The following morning, Princess Alara awoke to the soft glow of the twin suns spilling over the Zephyrian city. The summit was entering its final day, and the stakes were higher than ever. Yesterday, she had guided discussions, demonstrated human foresight, and shown that humans could act first with intelligence rather than force. Today, she had to ensure that these efforts would lead to lasting results, not only for humanity but for all species involved. She dressed carefully, selecting a simple yet elegant uniform that conveyed authority without arrogance. Humans had always known the power of presentation. Confidence and clarity often mattered as much as words or ideas. As she walked to the summit hall, she reflected on the progress so far. Many species had already begun to shift their perceptions of humans. The underestimation that had once defined humanity was now fading, replaced by curiosity, respect, and cautious admiration. Entering the hall, she noticed the delegates were already gathered. The air hummed with anticipation. Many species whispered quietly, casting curious glances at the human princess. She had learned long ago that attention, once captured, could be a powerful tool. Humans had captured it yesterday and the day before. Today, she intended to use it to secure a foundation for lasting cooperation. Krivon rose from his place, multiple eyes fixed on her. Princess Alara, your actions have been unexpected. The humans act with a foresight few species possess. Today, we shall see if this capability endures under pressure. Alara inclined her head. We are ready, she said. Her calm tone seemed to settle the room. Humans had a quiet confidence that often surprised other species. They did not rush. They did not overstate. Instead, they acted with thought, preparation, and clarity. The session began with a review of the proposals and agreements that had emerged over the past 2 days. Delegates discussed the predictive resource system, shared technology plans, and new schedules for interstellar trade. Many species were eager to see how the system could be applied in real scenarios. Alara guided them through simulations, answering questions and clarifying doubts. Every answer was measured, every explanation precise. Yet she remained vigilant. She knew that the Zephyrians would not fully yield so easily. They were proud and strategic, and they would continue to test her. She observed subtle cues, small gestures, fleeting expressions, and changes in posture that indicated calculations and considerations. Every move of her own had to anticipate these responses. A Zephyrian delegate spoke up, his voice measured but firm. "Princess Alara, your proposals have demonstrated foresight. Yet some of our advisors worry that the system may encounter unforeseen complications. How can we ensure that adjustments can be made efficiently?" Alara smiled softly. "The system is designed to learn and adapt. Humans have long relied on observation, prediction, and rapid adjustment. We anticipate changes, and we act in ways that minimize risk while maximizing benefit. The system is not rigid. It evolves with the information it receives." Several delegates nodded, impressed by her answer. The smaller species who had been hesitant before now seemed eager to participate, asking detailed questions and proposing refinements. Humans had shifted the summit from a formal negotiation to a collaborative problem-solving session. Krivon leaned forward. "Humans have acted first at every stage. You anticipate challenges, offer solutions, and guide the discussions. It is remarkable. You have turned potential conflict into cooperation without a single threat." Alara inclined her head. "Leadership is not measured by force, my lord, but by vision, preparation, and the courage to act when others hesitate. Humans strike first not to dominate, but to create opportunity for all." By mid-morning, the delegates were ready to formalize the agreements. Alara had prepared a final presentation that summarized the proposals, highlighted mutual benefits, and projected outcomes over the next decade. The holographic display shimmered above the table, showing interstellar trade routes, energy flows, and collaborative resource networks. Delegates studied the projections, their expressions reflecting surprise and admiration. The system demonstrated that careful planning and foresight could prevent conflicts, optimize resources, and strengthen alliances. No species could claim dominance, yet all would gain from participation. This delicate balance was exactly what Alara had hoped to achieve. Krivon spoke again, his tone thoughtful. "Princess Alara, your species has demonstrated an ability to act decisively while respecting others. This is rare in the galaxy. How have humans developed such foresight?" Alara's eyes sparkled. "Humans have faced many challenges, from the earliest days on Earth to the exploration of the stars. We have learned that preparation, observation, and cooperation are often more effective than force. Acting first is not about aggression. It is about responsibility, insight, and creating the possibility for success." The delegates remained silent for a moment, absorbing her words. Even the Zephyrians, proud and formidable, could not deny the effectiveness of her approach. Humans had not only presented a solution, but had guided the entire summit toward cooperation. They had acted first in ways that no one had anticipated. As discussions continued, Alara encouraged delegates to consider the long-term impact of their decisions. She suggested methods for monitoring the system, sharing updates, and adapting as circumstances changed. Her proposals emphasized collaboration, trust, and flexibility, qualities that many species had rarely experienced in interstellar politics. By afternoon, The summit had reached a consensus. Delegates signed agreements outlining shared responsibilities, resource allocations, and technology exchanges. Every species gained something meaningful, and the system was designed to adapt and evolve as new challenges arose. Humans had not only participated, they had led. Krivon approached Alara as the hall began to empty. "Princess, your actions have reshaped expectations. Your species strikes first with intelligence, foresight, and respect. This is extraordinary." Alara smiled faintly. "It is the human way. We do not seek dominance through force. We seek solutions through thought, preparation, and collaboration. Acting first is not about advantage. It is about creating opportunity for everyone." The Zephyrians were silent, contemplating her words. Even they, proud and strategic, had to acknowledge that humans had achieved something rare. By anticipating challenges, offering solutions, and guiding discussions with wisdom, humans had earned respect across the galaxy. As the day ended, delegates returned to their ships and stations, many speaking of humans with admiration. They had expected hesitation, mistakes, or reactive responses. Instead, they had found intelligence, foresight, and calm decisiveness. Humans had struck first, not with weapons or threats, but with vision, strategy, and collaboration. Alara returned to her quarters, exhausted but satisfied. The summit had been a success. Humans had not only gained influence, they had reshaped perceptions. Species that had once underestimated humanity now regarded them as capable, clever, and visionary. She stood at her window, looking out over the city as the twin moons rose. The reflections of crystal towers shimmered like stars. The galaxy had taken note of humans. They were no longer minor players or simple observers. They were leaders in thought, strategy, and cooperation. Alara allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection. Today had been the culmination of careful planning, foresight, and the courage to act first. Humanity had proven that influence could be gained without coercion, that respect could be earned through intelligence, and that bold action did not require force. Tomorrow, challenges would continue. The Zephyrians and other species would present new questions, new problems, and new negotiations. But humanity had taken a decisive step. By acting first with thought, clarity, and vision, they had set a standard for the galaxy. Alara smiled softly, feeling the weight of responsibility, but also the thrill of possibility. Humans had demonstrated that strength was not only in power, but in foresight, creativity, and moral courage. They had acted first in a way no one had expected, and the galaxy would remember it. She knew that this was only the beginning. Humans would continue to surprise, to lead, and to inspire. The summit had ended, but the lessons of foresight, preparation, and strategic action would echo throughout the galaxy for decades. And as the moons reflected off the crystalline city, Alara felt a quiet pride. Humanity had struck first, and not with force, but with intelligence, collaboration, and vision. The galaxy had seen the first true demonstration of human ingenuity on an interstellar stage. Humans would not be underestimated again. The enemy never expected the human princess to strike first.